In my hands, I'm a bad man. Even in the fight with my hands, I'm a bad man. Living in the streets all my life, I'm a bad man. I'm a bad man. I'm a bad man. With the mic in my hands, I'm a bad man. Even in the fight with the hands, I'm a bad man. Living in the streets all my life, I'm a bad man. I'm a bad man. I'm a bad man.
Without any further ado, ladies, and I know it's mostly ladies listening because let's be honest, most of you are lacking the genitalia to be men. And the few men that are listening, welcome back to It's Good, It's Great, or It's Just Plain Awful. I'm your host for the evening and for the ever so long looking future, Danny Herring. I want to apologize in advance for the delay in between shows. I'm recovering from an illness currently, but I've been receiving a lot of pressure in my direct messages, my DMs, to get a show out. So I figured I've got a little downtime tonight, Thanksgiving. Everyone happy Thanksgiving. Let's knock a show out. Let's do it. Let's get this out there. I'm feeling a little better. And we're early now into our second user season 3 for us. And I think when you're a couple weeks into the season, you can start to see a pattern. You can start to see what's unfolding in that season. You can kind of set a tempo of what to expect for the rest of the year. And so far, Season 3 has one key word. One word I want to focus on for the next few minutes. And that word is competition. Now, before you get ahead of yourselves, I might take this away you weren't expecting. When I say competition, I don't mean that these games are competitive. What I'm actually trying to touch on when I say competition is the lack thereof. The one noticeable trend that I've seen week after week after week, we've had 3 weeks, so I said week 3 times, is that this has become a league where you truly are either great or awful. There's not many good anymore. It's either you're top of the class or you're really, really bad. Case in point being the extreme number of blowouts we are seeing early in the season here. Let's take a trip back to week 1. One of the most anticipated NFC games that we'll probably have all year. You've got the reigning and defending Super Bowl champion Green Bay Packers taking on the ever-persistent, always in the mix to the end, Dallas Cowboys. Now, I know a lot of people know from my previous shows that I'm not a huge Cowboys fan. But my God, is that team that they're putting on the field right now potentially the most complete team in the NFL. Those Cowboys, week 1, took the Packers to the woodshed and beat them within an inch of their life. I mean, the Packers, coming off of an impressive Super Bowl win last year, have talent that you could argue rivals Dallas. I mean, if you look at the Packers on paper, they're a phenomenal team. They have some aging players, but today, those players are still in their prime. Justin Houston, for example, coming over from Kansas City, is still one of the best pass rushers in the game today. But yet, week 1, the Packers looked like a middle school team out there playing an NFL team. And the Cowboys absolutely dominated every facet of the game. And since then, the Cowboys in 4 games, they're one of only 2 teams so far that have gotten all 4 games, and most teams have played 3. In 4 games, they have a combined score of 177 points for the Cowboys to 46 combined for their opponents. That's not 46 in one game, which, mind you, Dallas has scored over 46 in multiple games this year. That's 46 total points on the year through 4 games that they have allowed while scoring 177 points. Now, this isn't an issue solely related to Dallas. I found another team that we're going to point out here in the Indianapolis Colts. Mind you, this isn't an issue even related to just these two teams alone. There are multiple teams around the league right now that are just dominating the competition. Very few of the games we've had play so far have been close competitive games. But the Indianapolis Colts, coming off a week where they dropped 61 points on the Jaguars. Let me repeat that in case you maybe misheard what I said. In one game, in 1 week, the Indianapolis Colts scored 61 points. The Colts, who 2 years ago were the Super Bowl champions, through 3 games have outscored their opponents 136-37. The Colts, in 3 games, have scored 136 points. We have some teams that probably still haven't put up 50 points in 3 games. Yet, the Colts and the Cowboys have an absolutely astronomical points per game so far early in the season. Now, with the Colts, you can look at their schedule, and you can say, hey, maybe they're doing it against bad competition. You know, the Jaguars lost their previous head coach who got hired on in San Francisco, and has taken a San Francisco team that was a bottom feeder for multiple years now, and have got them at 2-1. That's a separate issue, but doing a good job. And they brought in a new head coach with fairly little experience to take over, which one of, if not the best roster in the league. The Jacksonville Jaguars roster is not short on talent, but coaching experience has definitely showed early. But the Dallas Cowboys, week 1, blew out one of, if not the most consistent NFC team year in and year out in the Packers, with a roster that is star-studded like any other. So my question to you, the audience, is this the trend? Is this the new thing? Is it going to be blowout after blowout, week after week? Is this what we're coming to expect? Or are people going to figure it out again? You know, is this just the early growing pains? Are people going to figure it out again? And are we going to get back to competitive football games? Now I want to talk about a team that 2 years ago was very dominant. 2 years ago was an NFC powerhouse, and a lot of people thought they had a chance at a Super Bowl. I want to talk about the Arizona Cardinals. A lot of people have questioned some of the decisions they've made the past 2 off seasons. The biggest decision being starting this season with A.J. McCarron as their starting quarterback. They said, listen, we're going to be a run-heavy team, and we're going to put a young quarterback under center, and we're going to see what he can do. We're going to see if he can live up to maybe a higher potential than people give him credit for. Solid plan. David Johnson, arguably the best halfback in the league. Only problem is David Johnson has an injury history that is slowly building up as one of the most injured halfbacks in the league. David Johnson, already hurt again this season, going to miss extended time yet again. And now, as opposed to 2 years ago when you had a veteran Carson Palmer who could make every throw you can ask of him pretty much at quarterback, you have a youngster in A.J. McCarron who doesn't have an NFL ready, or let me rephrase there, an NFL strong arm. His arm is underpowered. His accuracies are questionable. And now that guy is the guy that you're going to look to and ask to win you football games. Now, make no mistake about it, the Cardinals' defense is still one of the strongest defenses in the league. And they're going to win games. When they play teams they're supposed to beat, that defense is going to win the game by itself. But when you're looking at me and you're saying, hey, let's match up, let's look at the NFC. Can the Arizona Cardinals beat the Dallas Cowboys? No. Can the Arizona Cardinals, right now without David Johnson, beat the Atlanta Falcons? No. Can the Arizona Cardinals right now, without David Johnson, beat the Green Bay Packers? And I'm going to say no. And the way that things have gone, the way things have progressed over these seasons now, I think you have to honestly ask that question over and over again, because David Johnson has proved that game after game he is an injury waiting to happen. If you're the Cardinals, you have to honestly look in the mirror and say, hey, when it comes playoff time, do we think David Johnson is going to be healthy? Do we think David Johnson can stay healthy throughout a playoff game? You look at these top tier NFC teams, and they all got big hitters. They all have guys that are going to lay the lumber, so to say, into David Johnson if he's on the field. And I'm not sure right now David Johnson is going to live to tell the tale at the end of the day. But moving on from one often injured halfback, but still very good halfback, to a young halfback taking the league by storm. And in order to do that, we're going to have to transition from Arizona to Denver, where Leo McMillan is running away with the most valuable player award, if you ask me. McMillan is carrying a Denver offense that has proven to be turnover prone. They're playing with a young quarterback who can make throws and is a playmaker, but is also turning the ball over on a consistent basis. But Leo McMillan is absolutely destroying teams on the ground. McMillan already, through 3 games, is 150 more rushing yards than the guy in second place in the rushing stats. McMillan has 7 TDs on the year, which is tied with TJ Yeldon for the lead. That's more touchdowns from himself than a lot of teams have passing as a whole. McMillan is single-handedly carrying a Broncos offense, and I think he is the front runner for the most valuable player award. But can we truly believe in a Denver team that is reverting back to an interception-prone team? Denver is a very, in my eyes, very hot and cold team. When they're on, they're going to be phenomenal. They're going to beat teams decisively. But they also have like a mental trigger. And I'm not sure what causes this, but they have a mental trigger to where they will start slinging the ball like Brett Favre, and they will throw interception after interception. Jarman is a quarterback so far that strikes me as a guy that's going to rack up a lot of yards, rack up touchdowns, and also rack up interceptions. Now, that's fine, and that'll win you regular season games. But when you get into the playoffs and you have to play the cream of the crop of the AFC, which is looking so far like the Indianapolis Colts and the Miami Dolphins, are you going to win a game if you throw 3 interceptions? Are you going to win a game if you throw 2 interceptions? Much less if it's a repeat of week 1 where Jarman threw 4 interceptions. And I think in the end that's going to be the difference between the top tier teams like Miami, like Indianapolis, is Jarman going to come to his own and learn the style of play that he needs to in this league? Or is this what we're going to grow to expect from this young man? Moving on from a rookie quarterback to another rookie quarterback. Jarman making waves early, having a lot of success, while also having some struggles. Moving to the number 1 pick of the New York Jets, Rasmussen. Now, I was very opinionated going into the draft about what I thought the Jets should do. You're looking at a Jets roster that still has a good chunk of holes on the team. They need help. with pick 1 and 2 in the draft, if you ask me, the Jets should have traded pick 1, because you're going to get a lot more value if you're trading away a top-tier quarterback like Rasmussen to a team as opposed to trading away what could have potentially been Jarman or one of the other quarterbacks that won the first round at pick 2. Rasmussen is on another level, easily. No argument from anybody. But instead they say, hey, we're not passing up. We're going to take this top-tier quarterback. We might not have the correct offensive line for him. We might not have the correct weapons for him to use. But this is a talent we can't pass up. And, I can respect that. But what I don't respect is putting this young man out on the field and expecting him to win no matter what. Because so far, Rasmussen has been asked to do just that. He's been sacked in 3 games 9 times and has thrown 10 interceptions. The coaching staff is asking this young star kid to go out there and carry a Jets offense that just doesn't have the weapons you need to succeed, much less than the AFC East, which has team after team after team that has good rosters. The Buffalo Bills have built up a good roster, regardless of if their general manager wants to admit that or not. The Miami Dolphins are now actually pretty stacked, especially offensively. And the Patriots are the Patriots. That's not going to change anytime soon. So the Jets needed something. They needed more. And right now, they're putting the weight of the world on Rasmussen's shoulders, and he's so far crumbling. So I want to ask the question to you. Is Rasmussen the next Ryan Leaf? A kid with all the talent in the world that just couldn't bear the burden of the NFL? Made terrible decisions off the field? Or is Rasmussen more likely the next Andrew Luck? An all-world talent squandered by bad general manager decisions, by not building up a roster around him capable of keeping him protected in the pocket and able to help him win games. Reality is, I probably should have called this the quarterback edition of the show over anything else, because the next hot topic is going to be on the change of quarterbacks in Carolina and Chicago. Everyone by now knows Cam Newton was traded from Carolina and is now a Bear. Now, this is a questionable decision from both franchises, in my opinion, for multiple reasons, but we're going to start in Carolina. I understand that you're cutting a big contract. And by doing that, you're setting yourself up with cap room to sign players, hopefully make a move in free agency. I get it. But Carolina isn't a team that wants to tank. They want to compete year in and year out. And when you make this kind of move, you have to have the next guy up. You have to have the next guy you think's ready to be the face of your franchise. But instead, they have some kid that, in my honest opinion, I'm not even sure if he should be a backup in the NFL, much less a starter. They have a kid that isn't accurate. He doesn't have an arm to throw very many passes. And now you want to compete with that guy at the quarterback position. Sure, you have a good defense. You have great running backs. You have okay wide receivers. But this is a quarterback-driven league. And now you're starting a guy that could be on a lot of practice squads for the most part, to be honest. And you're asking to win games with him at quarterback. And I just think that's a very questionable decision for a team that wants to win. Because now, you have to expect to lose the majority of the games you play. Because your quarterback isn't very good. So unless your defense can outscore the opposing team's offense, how are you going to win games? Because this guy may make an under-average game manager, but he's not going to be able to do too much more than that. On the flip side of the coin, Chicago is basically throwing in the towel on the Mitchell Trubisky case. Now, easily could make an argument that they're doing it too early. But they're making a firm decision. You're not believing in Trubisky anymore when you're bringing in a Cam Newton. Now the question is what do they do with Trubisky? Do they try to find a trade partner and move him? Do they cut him? Do they keep him as the backup? And the main point I want to point out to Chicago fans is, what do you expect from Cam Newton? Because let's look at Cam Newton's history. He isn't necessarily a playoff quarterback. I mean, the defense he had in Chicago was fantastic. Fantastic. But they're not an every year playoff team for a reason, because they don't have consistent play at the quarterback position. Cam Newton is a very emotional quarterback. And when he's up, he's up. But when he's down, he's way down. So I'm asking Chicago fans, do you believe that Cam Newton can do something he never really could do in Carolina? And that's win consistently, year in, year out, and be a perennial top 5 quarterback? Or will Mitchell Trubisky put his feet on the ground somewhere else and become the quarterback Chicago fans always thought he could be? So I'm going to close out the show here, and we're going to do it in the only way we know how. And that's the way too early Super Bowl prediction. Now, you know, we've had forum posts with Super Bowl predictions in them, and we've had people in chat box forums constantly saying who they think is going to get there. For 3 weeks, from watching games, from hitting the stat book, from hearing word of mouth, I confidently say that my Super Bowl prediction is going to be the Dallas Cowboys, potentially the most complete team in the NFL, going up against either. I couldn't make a decision in the AFC just yet, but I narrowed it down to 2 teams. So I'm picking the Dallas Cowboys on the NFC versus either the Indianapolis Colts or the Miami Dolphins. I think those are the 2 most consistent and most balanced offensive and defensive teams in the league. In the AFC, I should say. And I think the Dallas Cowboys on paper have arguably the best roster in the league. So with that, I'm going to bid you guys an adieu. I want to apologize for any coughs that happened during the show. Obviously, I'm still kind of recovering over the tail end of my sickness. And I hope you guys enjoyed. In the future, I do plan on getting some guest hosts in here. I had one guy lined up, but the schedules just never matched up, so I went ahead and did the show by myself. And like always, if you have anything you want me to talk about on the show, if you have any particular topics you want me to cover, anything you want me to rant on about or call out on the show, feel free to hit me up in my DMs. God knows Otto is constantly living there for some reason. But let me just remind you one last thing. In this world, you have 3 simple options. And we're going to mix it up a little bit. We're in season 3. Everything changes over time, so we're gonna change it up to maybe a more appropriate title here in the future. So in this world, you have 3 simple but yet elegant options. You can either be good, you can be bad, or, as most of you already know, you can be just plain awful.
In my hands, I'm a bad man. Even in a fight with my hands, I'm a bad man. Living in the streets all my life, I'm a bad man. I'm a bad man. I'm a bad man. With the mic in my hands, I'm a bad man. Even in the fight with the hands, I'm a